Stacy Swiderski, CEO and founder of Family Source Consultants, and welcome to our Bringing Dreams and Miracles Together podcast. In today's episode, we're honored to share the personal surrogacy journey of LaTisha Green. Sarah Martin, our Director of Operations, and Niki Renslow, our Manager of Match Operations and former surrogate herself, sit down with Tish to hear her incredible story. They explore how she first learned about surrogacy, what inspired her to embark on this life-changing journey, and why she ultimately chose Family Source Consultants. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of surrogacy together.
Well, hello and welcome everyone. I'm excited to jump into this conversation with Tish today about her beautiful surrogacy journey. I'm Sarah Martin. I'm the Director of Operations here at Family Source Consultants, and I am excited to also introduce my co-host today, Niki Renslow, Manager of Match Operations. If you want to say a little hello.
Hello, I'm Niki Renslow, Manager of Match Operations here at FSC. Super excited to talk to you today, Tish. Being a surrogate myself and an egg donor, I love hearing about journeys, discussing them, why you wanted to be a surrogate, and kind of talking us through your journey. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Of course, this is a thrill. It's exciting to get to talk to our surrogates at any point of the journey. But I'm gonna let Tish introduce herself in a minute, but she has completed a journey with us, and she is just one of our Family Source Consultants super surrogates, and we are just excited to talk to her today. And so Tish, I'm gonna kind of just hand the microphone over to you. And like Niki said, we want to hear, let's start with from the very beginning. What inspired you to become a surrogate and to reach out to Family Source and say, I'm ready to do this?
Sure. So first, I want to say thank you guys for allowing me on your platform. I'm super excited to be here and to share my story. So just going back to day one, I guess I don't want to say it started as a sad story, but my daughter's dad and I had broken up, and it was time for me to kind of go on my own little spiritual journey. So at that point, I've always wanted to do surrogacy, and I thought about it from time to time. I'm like, okay. But in November of 2022 is when I really honed in and said, you know what, I'm going to research it and see, what is actually to the process. So I reached out, and I think I actually was scrolling on TikTok, and one of the young ladies, I think her name was Ashley, and she was working with Family Source Consultants, and I was looking at her profile and just trying to see, what it entails. And I reached out and started the process. It was just as simple as that. Late night strolling on TikTok. So the process was super simple to go in and do the application. But I would say the entire process to get my documents submitted and actually begin the full process, it was probably about a month or so, a month to 6 weeks, I would give it. So a little bit of hurry up and wait, but I mean, that's necessary. So that was cool, speaking with different people. And then the fun began when the matching, profiles were being sent. And I actually my family was the first family that I had received to be matched, and it was literally heaven sent. We went from there.
Oh my gosh. I love to hear. I'm going to pause you because two things that you said. I want to just take a minute and note too. Intake takes a minute. That's right. Like your intake process, like once you have that inspiration, you're like, all right, ready to go, and you said some of those magic words of hurry up and wait. That happens a lot with this process because there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot that needs to happen, and then you have to wait, and then a lot that needs to happen, and then you need to wait. And so I love hearing that you had a wonderful intake experience. That's something I'll take a minute and just brag about that team. Those women that are connecting with surrogates. Most of them have been all of them have been surrogates themselves. And I know I had to take a minute. So they, they know exactly where you've been. And so it's nice to have that partner in the beginning. Cause like you said, there's a lot of information. We have
Oh
to
yeah.
collect all your medical records, get your profile together,
Mhm.
insurance, questions.
That was my biggest hiccup, insurance, because we were going through open
Sure.
enrollment with my job.
Ah,
So we were switching from one carrier to another one. So I had to wait
Yes.
on the SPD to download to be able to, it was a lot. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, and
what took.
Nikki, you know some about that too, especially being in matching, is that insurance could be a difficult piece. So, well, Tish, thanks for hanging through the ups and downs of open enrollment and what covers what. And
Yeah.
that's certainly a lot. And so I love hearing you say that the family you worked with was heaven sent. Tell us more about that. Tell us what it was like
yeah.
to get that profile and start scheduling the match meeting, and how did you feel in that
Sure.
during that
So
time?
during that time, it was honestly, so my reason for doing it, I wanted to recommit my body back to Christ just as a living sacrifice. So whatever he wanted me to do, I was willing to do it. And they were the first profile that I had seen. And it was when I did my matching, I wanted to make sure that I worked with a family who was, of some type of Christian or Christianity, that we had most of the similar beliefs. I didn't want um I didn't want to be forced to do a lot of different things. I really wanted the process to be natural. So therefore I'm not stressed, the baby's not stressed, that we can just flow and things work out how they're intended to. And they were on board, totally on board. And I love that when I met them, they were just sweet as pie. I didn't actually talk to the mom. It was more so the dad who I dealt with, which I was okay with because he was amazing. Um, and they allowed me to include my daughter, and that was just such a beautiful thing that I'm super, super thankful for. So it was a cool process. When we talked on the phone, on video for the first time, they shared their story, I shared mine, and we just connected instantly.
Mm.
We were two people that we talked when we needed to, but it wasn't overbearing. And I love that about the process, because I know sometimes it can get like, oh, check in 3 times a day because, you're carrying such a precious gift. But I'm glad they
Right.
did not, burden me, or I didn't have that stress. I was able to just literally carry little man and like he was my very own, and then birth him and give them their gift.
Well, and I think that's important. And, Nikki, I want to hear too from you just about
Mhm.
the magic that really can happen in the matching process with connecting people. And I mean, really what I'm hearing too is like you guys had that instant connection and that like gut feeling of like, yeah, we have what we need here to have a successful journey. And then they really trusted you.
They did. They did.
And just and you obviously showed up time and time again trustworthy, which is incredible. But so I just love hearing that you guys had that easy initial connection, and then they were able to just let the pregnancy progress as it should, which I know as an intended parent is so hard to do. So I love hearing that
Mhm.
that was an ease for you. Nikki, thoughts or comments just about that in general?
Yeah, Tish, I'm actually super glad that you brought this up, right? Because this is one thing that I'd like to chat with surrogates about matching and intended parents. It's not first in, first out, right? So matching is this huge puzzle piece of not just clinic requirements, agency requirements, intended parent preferences, but surrogates too, right? And
Mhm.
so that's an important part of it. When we do make matches, we want to chat with you. What type of communication do you want? Is someone who has a similar belief system important to you, right?
Mhm.
Because if that is something that's important, we're going to make sure that we present you with intended parent profiles. Same thing with intended parents and surrogates of, hey, this is really important to her. I know this was important to you. we think this might be a good match, and here's why. So the fact that you're open about that, and that's what we like to say when we chat with surrogates and intended parents. What are you looking for? Because the goal isn't to, just have this back and forth. It's like, hey, let's find you that perfect person to move forward on this journey with you. So I'm glad
Yep.
that you brought that up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So yeah, so take us from you matched, and then you were introduced to, case management, and that's where the real fun begins. You have your medical screening trip. That was kind of that next piece is medical screening, and having to
Traveling.
travel. And
Yeah.
I think something that, I'd love to hear your perspective too. It's like, especially for a first time surrogate, like that every next step is something you've never experienced before.
Right. Yeah.
Even if, of course, all surrogates are moms, they've had pregnancies, they've been through delivery and birth, but this is it's not a totally different thing, but it is a different experience. And so I would just love to launch into like, okay, great. Now you are, in case management, and you're about to go to a medical screening. And I want to take that time too. This is why an agency is so important, is that everyone is supported, at every step of the way. And there's so much going on. There's so many details. And as you know, and you're about to tell us about, appointment after appointment after appointment after appointment. And so it's important to have that person, with you all along the way, helping you stay organized, helping with communication with all parts, clinics, parents, yourself,
Yes.
those types of things. So tell us a little bit about, as soon as you got to case management, and then, headed on to the real meat of the journey.
Sure. So as we got to medical clearance, so they live in Chicago, and I'm originally from Chicago. So that was just another added layer that was super special, because of course, whenever I go home, I can visit them as well if they allow. So my clinic was literally around the block from my best friend's house. So some of the things that I felt, even though of course we know it's monetary exchange, but some of the things I feel like, hey, you don't have to pay for that, because I have people or that I can rely on. That's a unnecessary expense. So when I got to medical clearance, everything went well. I think I drank too much water, but initially, and they was like,
That happens.
because I was
Tish,
following the
I got
instructions
too
to the T.
hydrated.
Yes, I was following the instructions to the T, and she like, oh, baby, you have to release some of this. And I'm like, okay. So everything came back clear, ready to go. And I started taking, what did I start taking? I know I took the estradiol for them to check my lining prior to me doing the medical clearance. But after medical clearance, it was just another hurry up and wait, because then we started legal after I was, clear.
That's right.
So,
Well, that's you're doing great. One, I love hearing that you got to stay with your best friend right before. I don't want to skip over that too quickly. I think that's, again, one of those kind of unexpected gifts of the journey, if you will. You got to see your best friend. And I love that you're going, I have my intended parents, in mind as well. Like, instead of having them, put me up in a hotel, you're going, hey, let me just stay with my friend. And I can literally run the car. I think that's beautiful. So I just wanted to say, I think that's incredible. Niki?
And
How did your best friend feel about the journey? What did your best friend think? This is why I love support systems and friends and family and all of that, right? So how did your best friend feel about everything?
So she was excited. It was, I think, a little different for my family at first. And they were like, you sure you want to do that? And I had to just, let them know, like, it's to be able to bless someone else. I enjoy being pregnant. I'm not sure if I want to have any additional kids on my own, just in this stage in life, because I would like to be married. And I enjoy being pregnant so much. And I was like, I think it's a good idea. So my mom was a little hesitant. My dad was as well, because of the emotional connection. And I was like, well, it's not my embryo. And I know that it's not. I know the reason I'm going into it. So as the journey progressed, everyone was on board 100%. And when he was born, it's like, it was their baby. Like, oh, where is he at? Like, oh, he's going home. He's going home. But
I
my
love
best
that for
friend
your
was,
intended parents too, though, because that means there's this whole, village of people who love that baby too and support them and are cheering them on and cheering that
oh,
child on.
yes.
And
Oh,
that's
yes.
incredible. But so that's kind of that next question. And I hope we keep sprinkling in just how, Niki, I think what you just brought up is so important, is a support network and how it shows up at each stage. In particular, when the journey is over, or once delivery has happened, how does support really play that role? But you brought up a great point, Tish. It's like medical clearance, boom, once it's like everything, you're in that hurry up and wait, and then the gate opens up. And tell us how the legal experience was for you. A lot of people are nervous about that. Oh, we've got to have a contract and attorneys, and that can cause people to be a little anxious on both sides. But talk to us about what that was like for you.
So legal was, how can I say, legal? Another hurry up and wait. However, I feel like the wait was necessary because it allowed me to be able to comb through the contract, and actually I read all 30 documents to make sure I'm not signing something that is like, okay, I didn't know that was in there. So I made every draft that they sent that it was an edit. I made sure I read line for line to make sure, I'm in the clear, they're in the clear, we're good to go. I would say that legal took probably about 6 to 8 weeks. And I wanted to make sure some things for me that I could still travel up to 28 weeks. I know a lot of travel was cut off at like 24 weeks. And I'm like, that's a little early, because I still like to go, whether I'm in, especially with me having such a great pregnancy, I'm appreciative of those additional weeks. But I wanted to make sure that was included. I wanted to make sure that I had a doula, especially with me. I had a support system, but I didn't have a spouse. It was just my daughter and I. So I wanted to make sure that I had someone on speed dial that I could readily call that's available to assist me with the pregnancy if need be. What else did I include? I think those were my 2 major things and then no vaccinations. Those were the 3 things that were absolute non-negotiables. But other than that, they took it, they agreed to it, and my legal process was pretty simple. It was easy finding a lawyer. They gave me a list, and my case manager, she was phenomenal. I had about 3 different caseworkers throughout the process, but I will give a big ups to Stormy. She was the one that really honed in and helped me. I know she's no longer with the company, but she was the one that she just really held my hand and, provided me with everything that I needed. And it was pretty simple.
Yeah.
It was simple.
How'd you feel? Sorry, Sarah.
No, go ahead, Niki.
I know you get through legal, and I'm so glad that you felt all that support. That's so wonderful. And you went through the contract, all of that, and then now you're getting into cycling. How were your nerves when it came to cycling and knowing you're about to start those meds?
It was just like, oh my God, this is really happening. It's really happening. Like the ball is rolling, and it's no turning back now.
Right? It's like, okay, I signed a contract. I have now a package of medications that have showed up at my house.
Yes.
And I want to respond to, I love that you're legal. Sometimes people can get hung up in legal on different things. And it sounds like you had great representation and you had clear thoughts about what was important to you going, into this journey. And your attorney, it sounds like, obviously helped you communicate those and get those written into the contract. And that's something, I really appreciate about the attorneys, they're the experts. They've been doing these contracts. They know exactly what needs to be in them. And it's so helpful for both intended parents and surrogates, because there's stuff in there you're going, oh, I had no idea we even needed to think about this, or
Exactly.
all these issues. And so it really is such an important thing to have all those things codified, especially like as things progress. It's such a good reference. Okay, what's next? Let me look at the the contract. And like you said, case management is so important in all those pieces, and letting you also inform you what's going on. And I'll do a shout out to case management as well. Like you said too, throughout the journey, you had a couple different case managers, and that absolutely might happen. Yeah. Like a lot, there might be someone who's on vacation, and so someone has to step into that journey, or maybe they're on maternity leave themselves or
I
something
was
like
going to say
that.
maybe someone on their own surrogacy journey, right?
It's happened. Yes, absolutely. So like those things are
Very
gonna
common.
happen, and they can cause nerves to rise too. But I'll even say, if that does, you can also exactly have the same case coordinator from beginning to end, and that's great and all well. But I'm always confident if a journey does get handed to another team member, that they can slip right in and keep things moving because of the way we're organized and documented and all of those things. And the system, it's designed to be able to, for us to be able to continue to support seamlessly, no matter what, if someone's on vacation or not. So I loved hearing you say that you had a great experience in case management. That's important.
And I just love how relatable to be able to work with someone who has completed the journey and know, some of the ins and outs of what you're experiencing. That was awesome. I really love that.
Yeah, I mean, just similar to, the matching team, most of our case coordinators have also been surrogates, and so they know exactly what's happening next. So, I think, Niki brings up a great point too. It's especially when it's the medications. I think that's probably the number one thing that causes people to be hesitant or nervous or not move forward. So like, tell us about, and there are injections. There's all kinds of things that are uncomfortable or difficult, but I know, that most surrogates would say, yes, that's maybe the least fun part of the journey, but don't let it stop you, because it's really not.
It's a small part.
That's right. So tell us about that.
So when I received my med calendar, I was a little excited because I kind of documented my journey, a small portion, and I actually was scheduled to start meds on my best friend's birthday. My best friend is very significant to my process.
Love this.
But so I started on her birthday, and it was not hard. I thought the injections were gonna be like, oh my God, but I have tattoos. So I'm not when it comes to pain, I'm not scared of it. So given the injections in my stomach was a little like, oh my God. But after the first two, it became a breeze. And then the ones in my hip or high buttocks, that was challenging, having to turn around, but I figured it out. But the meds weren't bad at all. It did come a time where I thought like, oh my God, am I taking this stuff correctly? Is it gonna work?
Sure.
But I mean, obviously I did just fine because we have a baby out of it, but it was not bad at all. It was not bad. I will definitely say to anyone who is considering it, don't let that portion stop you. Ask for help if needed. Utilize the pharmacy, because I did all of the tutorials and I read all the literature to make sure I am going to get this. I'm not a person that likes asking for help. I'm working on it, but yeah, I just did all my research. I went on TikTok to see other surrogates and how they did their injections, watch YouTube videos. So yeah, don't let that deter you at all, because that's just a small token.
Tish, I think you really just like hit the, nail on the head with just anything in life. If you're asking questions, if you're working to figure it out, you're going to get it figured out. You're going to do it right. You're not just like, okay, let me just, boom, the shot, we're good to go. You made sure you took that time. And I think that's important, like for all surrogates to consider is making sure you're educated and ready to go and confident, whether, like you said, talk to the clinic, talk to the pharmacy, talk to your case coordinator,
Yep.
do that research, and reach out to. That's something Family Source does so well is our surrogate support. Like we have
Yes.
the private Facebook group,
Mhm.
our surrogate support manager, Denise, is there. Like there's always someone to reach out to and go, I'm nervous. I'm taking my first shot. What do I need to do? I've looked at all
Yep.
this. Like that's, so I love
Always
hearing
like
you say that.
FaceTime me. FaceTime me. I'll be on video with you. We'll go through this together. Like that's I can't even tell you how many like FaceTimes I've been on, right? I think the
Yes.
Lupron, it sounds like you did a Lupron protocol, right? With the
Mhm.
stomach
Yep.
injection. So they're like, okay, that wasn't bad, right? Because those are smaller needles, but it's when you
Yep.
switch to that progesterone, in your hip, and then they're like, can I call you on this one? I'm like, yes, we're gonna go through this together, right?
Yep.
So I completely understand that. It can be nerve-wracking, but FaceTime us anytime. We'll be
That's
there
right.
walking you through, cheering you
Yeah.
on. You got it.
Yeah, the support group on Facebook was definitely helpful. I know I chimed in
Yeah,
a few times and asked some
good.
questions and responded to some things.
Yeah.
And I think with my journey, I was so eager for things to progress that I think I helped do some of the jobs that I probably shouldn't have, like booked my own flight. When they told me my transfer date, I went ahead and booked my flight to
You're
Chicago
like,
for
let's
me and
go.
my daughter. And they like, wait, it doesn't work like that. I said, I'm faithful that, everything is gonna take and it's gonna be okay. So,
Oh, that's hilarious. I
yes,
love
Yes.
I
I'm
did.
sure you're a case manager at the time going, hold on, wait a minute, you did what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like
Full
that's
disclosure, case
works.
managers usually do that.
Yep.
That's
Full
right.
disclosure, you do not have to book your own flight as a surrogate. We got you.
Yeah,
I
I
love
was
that,
so
Tish.
eager
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
That's amazing.
Tish
because
said, I'm at the front door of the clinic. Let's go.
I know.
I was already going home. So whether the transfer worked
Yeah.
or not, so I just figured like, hey, I could take that off your hands. And if you want me to submit it for reimbursement, we can work on that. But I'm gonna be in Chicago either way.
Oh, that I love it. Well, so that's a great lead in. Talk to us about that. Like the transfer, the night before. How were you feeling going into transfer? What was transfer like? How many transfers did your journey require? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Sure. So the night before transfer, I had to take the one of the progesterone, and I think it's the HCG that you have to take that mix it up. And I was a little nervous about that because I think you have to put the water in it and mix it and then inject it. And I didn't think that I had done it correctly, but I packed up my meds. I had to fly from Atlanta to Chicago, and everything, my meds cleared. I thought that I was gonna have some issues with that, but went fine. I was a little nervous, but nevertheless, things worked out. I went and stayed with my best friend again. So she was the one that took me to transfer. And I thought that my IPs were going to be there, but for whatever reason, they got mixed up with the transfer date. So it was just myself, and they gave me some little socks and my gown, and I sat in the room. It was kind of cold in there. And then they took me into where they completed the transfer. So I was asking, can I record it or can I FaceTime? And typically, with the HIPAA, they say, no, you can't. I said, but my IPs aren't here, and I really would like to be able to share this moment. So they did grant me the opportunity to record a small piece of when they were inserting it. So I was able to send it to them. And I did the little, what do they call it? I don't want to say ritual, but
French
ate the
fries.
pineapples. I ate the pineapples, and then after transfer, I did go get some McDonald's fries, and I went and laid and had my feet up for hours, and I just relaxed. And I told my best friend, like, "Oh, girl, I'm pregnant."
Yes,
So,
speak it into the universe.
I said, "Yeah, girl,
Yes.
I'm pregnant." So I relaxed for that day after transfer. It was really quick too. It was literally, I saw them come from the back with their little spectacle. They came, shot it up, it went on, planted or whatever it did. And they was like, "You're done." I was like, "Okay, yeah, that was really quick." And after that, I
I
ended up,
think the worst part of transfer is the nerves, really. It's just the having to get through that, like, what is this going to be like
yeah,
feeling?
I think my biggest part of the entire journey was the after transfer and waiting for to see if am I pregnant, am I not pregnant, what happened. So
Yeah.
that when I made it back home, I already felt like I was pregnant. I had some tenderness in my breast anyway, and I just knew in my mind, like, I'm pregnant, but I'm not gonna test. I am not going to test. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna
Okay.
wait. But I think I tested at 6 days, and I got a line, and I was like, I shared it with my caseworker. She's like, "Oh my God, that's great." And I said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna tell my intended parents because I had an appointment, I think 4 days after I tested. So I tested every day
That's what I was saying.
just to
Yeah,
make
around
sure."
10 days makes, that
Yep.
would make sense. Yeah. Mhm.
And when I went to the doctor, that HCG level was very high. So I said,
Yeah.
"We did it." So
So
they are
what was
That's
it
excited.
like with
awesome.
your intended parents during that post transfer to that first HCG or that first beta test? What was the communication like during those 10 days, the longest 10 days of all of your lives?
I
So it
know.
was communication throughout the journey was very sparse, to say the least. It was really on a need to know basis.
It's
So,
great.
they were living their lives. I was doing my thing here. And it was we communicated about the most important things. Like I said, they
Great.
didn't want to stress me. I didn't want to stress them. So all of the great milestones, of course, they were super excited. They would check in with me from time to time to make sure I didn't need anything, to make sure my daughter was good. And
Love it.
they were super excited. We didn't
Yeah.
start really communicating until, of course, I was fully pregnant and started attending appointments. And then we would FaceTime, and I would send them video messages. My daughter would sing to the baby. And
Oh my
so I would
goodness.
share, different things like that,
Oh,
the baby
sweet.
moving. So,
And Niki, I would love to hear your, feedback about this as well. I think what you're talking about too is a really normal experience in a surrogacy journey. If we think about our intended parents in particular, they're so nervous. Most of them have already experienced a lot of loss in this arena. And, so sometimes, and I think surrogates, really need to think about that too, is there could be some distance in that relationship until things are feeling more secure. And I think that's something that's absolutely normal and could be absolutely expected, is that an intended parent might not really open up or really get close until the pregnancy is really progressing and everyone can kind of exhale, if you will. So
mhm,
it sounds like that's maybe even some of the experience you had. It's like, okay, we can
mhm.
all kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Tish is really pregnant. We've got
Yep.
rising beta numbers. We've been released to her OB. The fertility clinic said, we're all good to go. Let's
Yep.
move forward. And then you can all really enjoy that pregnancy, like it's a more traditional pregnancy. So,
Mhm.
I think
so
I'd
yeah.
like to call it cautious optimism, right? Of course, you want to
Yep.
be optimistic, you're excited. But at that point, you have to be very trustworthy to have someone who might not be right around the corner from you carrying your child, right? And you're cautiously optimistic. Okay, we want to make it to this step. We have the positive beta. Great. Now we need a heartbeat. Great, we have the heartbeat. Now maybe we're doing the nuchal translucency and we're waiting on the results of that scan, right? To see if there's any genetic abnormalities or if the pregnancy is growing how it should. Now we're at our 20-week ultrasound. Wonderful. Now we're ready to do a hospital tour. Okay. Now we're in the room. Okay, the baby's crying. We're good. So it's like you're cautiously optimistic, right? Like every step of the way, just holding your breath a little bit. Like, I'll never, every step of the way with my journey, I'm like, okay, we're good. Okay, we're good. Okay, we're good. So it
Yeah.
was kind of like, I'm excited, but you don't want to get too excited, right?
Yeah.
And so I completely understand that.
Yep. Oh
So
yeah.
Tish, anything kind of leading up to, I want to get to the good part, the delivery.
Yeah.
But
Right.
anything, between, that you just want to share with everyone between confirmation of pregnancy, being released to your doctor, just for your normal appointments that you want to share, like maybe something special that happened with you and your intended parents along the way, or just like what are some of the nuggets that you're like throughout the journey. I want to make sure people hear this about our experience.
Sure. So, I've created like a little scrapbook for them, just to kind of document my journey to make sure that they always have that. I didn't want to send them all the pregnancy tests, but I took a picture of it. Just so, although we didn't communicate as much, they still have all of the special little pieces that they can go back and refer to. But as far as confirmation of pregnancy, cried a little bit because I was just so excited. And I was like, oh my gosh, we made it. Like, and for this to be my first try, that was really, really heartwarming to me. Like, oh my God really trusted me to be able to carry another little human for someone else. So that was just one of my special moments. And from there, it just, when I say my pregnancy was amazing, it didn't even feel like I was pregnant. He was the easiest baby to carry. I'm ready to get to the good part too.
Well, tell us, jump right into it. Okay. Tell us about going into labor and communicating with all, the agency, the parents, and just
Sure.
let us
Well,
know.
I will say this. It was a lot of appointments, from confirmation of pregnancy, of course, being able to be released to my OB, just doing those additional betas, the blood scans, the ultrasounds, and everything turned out well. And then I was able to be released to my OB, which I originally wanted my OB that I delivered with my daughter. He stopped delivering babies. So that made me a little sad. However, I was transferred to someone who was just as kind. And she told me like, oh, you're my poster child for pregnancy. So you're one of the easiest women that I've dealt with. And I was like, okay, thanks, dude. My pregnancy was so good. And I say that because when I say God is amazing, that I used to ask her like, okay, do I really have to come in here? Because they're literally less than 10 minutes. She like, yes, you still have to come. So
I know.
So, but on to the good part. I was scheduled to deliver on May 8th. And it was that Sunday, Cinco de Mayo. I had went and ate tacos with my friends, and we were laughing and joking. And the parents were scheduled to come in that Wednesday before, but they were unable to make it. So fast forward to that Sunday, which is May 5th. I go home, and I was actually scheduled to start my maternity leave the 6th. And I said I was going to go to work for a few moments just to finish with my orientation class, and then I was going to leave. So I talked to my boss. She was like, how you feeling? Are you having any contractions? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'll see you tomorrow. That was at about 7 p.m. So I got my daughter ready for bed. I laid down. I had talked with the intended parents, and they had just made it at 9 p.m. that Sunday.
Okay, good. And I was like, please tell me they got there.
They made it at 9 p.m. that Sunday. So I told them, hey, get you some rest. We have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, but if you need me tomorrow, just reach out to me and we'll go from there. So at about 4 a.m. on the 6th, I started having just an uneasy feeling. It was not bad contractions. And I had had my doula appointments, and I had been taking birthing classes in between the pregnancy. So I'm knowing what to expect because of being pregnant. But then this pregnancy was different. It was like, am I really having contractions, or am I just being uneasy? So I called my mom, and I actually was supposed to have stayed at my sister's house the night before in preparation for labor. And she was like, did you call your sister and tell her what's going on? I was like, no, I'm just walking, and I mean, I'm okay. But so I would go and lay down from time to time. And I think I ended up taking a Tylenol, and I went to sleep. I got up and I called my sister and let her know what was going on. And she was like, well, you keep me posted and I'll be over there. So she sent my niece instead. So I unlocked the door. My niece was here. My daughter ended up waking up, and she came here. It was probably about 6 o'clock at this time. I went back to lay down, and I just kept a heating pad, just trying to breathe through the uneasiness. So I think maybe about an hour later, it was about 7, I woke up. I called my doula to let her know what was going on. And she was like, okay, you think it's time, we need to go ahead and start heading to the hospital. Okay, if that's what you say, but I want to labor at home as much as I can. So I took a shower, and I kept sitting on the toilet because that, releasing that fluid made me feel better. So I called her back, and I was yelling to my niece. I said, hey, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I think this baby is getting ready to come. So
No.
she was like, you want me to call 911? I said, I don't care who you call, because this baby is getting ready to come.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
no.
So I called my doula back, and I said, yeah, I'm not gonna make it. And I felt the urge to push. And as I'm sitting on the toilet, that's when my bloody show came on through.
Really?
So
Oh my goodness.
my niece called the ambulance, and she's on the phone with the dispatcher, and she's like, oh, where's she at? And she's like, she's sitting on the toilet. She said, no, she doesn't need to be on the toilet. You need to try to get her and lay her on her back. So she said, I have the EMTs en route, dispatch. So she's juggling with talking to them, calling my sister on the other phone so she can be en route. So I'm laying on the bed, and I couldn't get on my back. So I'm on all four. And mind you, I had just gotten out of the shower. So yeah, I'm laying on all fours, and I'm like, I feel the urge to push. I push. I feel the baby slide down a little bit, but he comes back up. I relax a little. I feel another contraction come through, and literally, as I'm pushing for the second time, I hear the EMTs rush in, and he goes back up a little bit. I push again, and the baby comes out. They're literally guiding him out. So 3 pushes, and he was delivered.
And Tish had an unexpected home birth.
I did. I did.
Wow.
I did. It was just like, oh
Wow.
my God. Yeah.
That EMT was like, okay.
He made the comment. He was like, so if it seems like we don't know what we're doing, we just have not done this in a long time.
Well, Tish, just from the little time I've had with you today, getting to hear you at every step of the journey, booking your own flight and whatnot, that does not surprise me that you just kind of delivered that baby on your own.
Huh? She's like, we're gonna have no professionals involved. I got this.
It was not
I love
me.
it.
I promise. It was not me. So I said, oh my goodness.
Anyone listening right now is like thinking, what do the intended parents know? What's happening? So like, what happened next? So you're at home, baby's here with you.
Did you go to the hospital with the baby?
I did. So
Okay.
Right after
Tish said, I just brought the baby with me.
literally they put a sheet on me. I had him in my arms, and they wheeled me down because I still had the placenta. I hadn't delivered that. So
Oh, wow.
they literally,
Wow.
when I got to the hospital, I'm holding the baby. They're like, oh, well, you had an eventful morning. I said, to say the least, I have. And they took them, cleaned them up, got me situated. The dad, he came on to the hospital. When I say my most rewarding moment is when I saw him pick up his son and weep. Oh my goodness, the waterworks.
Oh gosh.
It just came out. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was, I'm about to cry right now. Oh,
Yeah, that got me.
yeah, it was beautiful. But yeah, I have no words. Honestly, I have no words. I don't.
I always say the best day of your life is the day you have your own children. But watching a family that you help create, and I'll say this forever, is like if you could just bottle that, there's your world peace.
Yeah,
Because the thankfulness of seeing a family that you got me, Tish, that like
yeah.
you've helped create is, I'll never, I mean, not to jump in, but same thing when my intended parents got to see their twins for the first time. It was like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's
I mean,
awesome.
what a beautiful moment.
Mm, yeah. So my sister was a little, she like, you just don't want me to see any of your children born, do you? I'm like, I can't help it. Because my
so
daughter
was
was
your
born in the
daughter born?
pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah, she was born in the pandemic. So it was just me and her dad. And she like, man.
Wow.
So with this baby, she came in on the tail end. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did your daughter think being there? I mean, because you're giving birth on the bed, right? What did your daughter and your niece, and then you go from this high, adrenaline rush, get to the hospital, and then there's that other adrenaline rush of seeing dad, with his son. What was that like for you and for everybody? I mean, that's a lot of highs kind of in a very small period, right?
It was just the best feeling because when I say I felt so good afterwards, after they, had given me my stitches, I'm up walking around and asking them like, hey, do I need to help you or anything? You all need anything with the baby? They're like, no, you need to be resting. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm here to help you. I've had a child before. So if you need help, I'm willing to help. But when
Oh,
I got
Tish.
home, my daughter was so excited to see me like, oh, mommy, you're home. My daughter's 4. So she was just so amazing. She asked about the baby and wanted to see pictures, and she just loved on me so much. And she was able to see the baby before he went home. And she was just really, really ecstatic about it. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. But one thing I can say, and I don't want to highlight this as a negative because I know protocol need be, but as a surrogate, I know that I am just a surrogate. And after I had the baby, I was in, of course, communication with the parents and the aunt of the baby. So we were in there, and it was like the nurse kind of, I don't know, shunned me and was like, and what's your relationship? I was like, I'm the surrogate. I just had the baby. Like, I just felt so, like, golly,
Sure.
thrown away. Am I chopped liver? So like I said, I don't want to highlight that as a negative point, but that was just like, geez, I know I did my job and this was transactional, but I have feelings too.
Right.
Was that
And
the nurse at the hospital?
Yes.
Really? Usually
Yes.
they're very like inclusive and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you just did this for somebody and
Yeah.
helped create a family.
I
So
don't
I
know if
have
it
to
was,
tell you, Tish, that's
I don't know if she was just having a bad day or, what it was, but I was just like, okay.
yeah, no, that's definitely surprising,
that's a one-off.
especially, I mean, I think It made me think too. I do think that is a rare thing because even your case coordinator, I'm sure you saw this ahead of time. There's like a document that the intended parents and surrogate all sign and complete. It's like your birth plan, and who can be with you, who's in the hospital, what, they even contact the hospital directly and make sure everyone has a room if it's all possible and that everyone understands on the floor who's who, what's what, who's baby going home with, who's on the guest list, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So
And I think
it does surprise me, but of course that is something to be prepared for, to have, and it sounds like you handled it just right. You have to be like, well, there could be someone a nurse that wasn't briefed or just came on the floor and hasn't really understood what's going on yet or something like that. That might go, wait, who are you? What are you doing here? Why are you holding this baby? But, and kudos to them. Let's make sure babies don't leave the hospital if they're not supposed to.
Yes.
But I'm glad you shared that. And I'm sure that felt like excuse me, and a bruise in that moment. And
it was.
You handled it really well. And that's why it's also important, if you can, make sure that document is printed, have that birth plan with you. Like, no, this
I had everything. I had a sign printed and everything that I, put on the door, because our rooms were right next to each other.
Good.
And it was, I kept my document because we were of, different race of one another. So she probably was like, what's going on here? And I'm like, I just gave birth to him. That's all. I just want to hold him. I don't want to take him home. I just want to hold him. That's it.
Please note my hospital bracelet.
So yeah. But other than that, the experience was great.
That was your only hiccup.
Yeah, that was my only hiccup. That was the only hiccup. So I'm glad about that. But after birth and, getting home, getting back settled, getting into the swing of things, it was a pretty smooth transition. I had a lot of support around me to love on me. But when he left to actually go back to Chicago, I cried.
Sure.
Yeah.
I cried. Like, oh my goodness. Even though my mind, my spirit was prepared for what's to come, it's nothing that you really can do to prepare yourself to experience those emotions like it's actually happening. But other than that, it was good. I was able to pump for him for a little while and send him some breast milk. So other than that, all is well. We spoke on Thanksgiving and I was able to FaceTime him, and he's just getting so big. But yeah, he is.
Well, Tish, I want you to be able to as we come to a close today, like think through. Niki, I want to, is there anything you want to ask before we close?
I like to ask all our lovely ladies, what's the one piece of advice you would give for women who are thinking about applying to become gestational surrogates?
To make sure that you are doing it for the outcome and not the income. Because the outcome is so much more rewarding than, what's to come. That has to be the initial reason that you want to help someone outside of, all of the other things that are added. That's my tidbit.
I love that, Tish. Like, thank you for that. And that is important, that yes, there is compensation, when you are a gestational surrogate, and it can be life-changing, but you're genuinely creating a family. You're doing something life-changing for a family, and the outcome is beyond rewarding. And for some surrogates, they might be your lifelong family, and I love that. Thank you for saying that.
That's really good. Great question, Niki. Great answer, Tish. Just anything, Tish, before I, close us today, that you want to share in general about your journey or being a surrogate, or just anything. What does Tish want to end her story with today?
Sure. So I would say this, including your kids, your child or children, is that was super important to me, especially with my daughter being so young, and I know she wanted another sibling. It just helped for her to know, to start young with helping others. It's not all about what you want, and
That's
you'll
right.
get it in God's timing. So just reading to her, educating her, including her along the process. When I say every step of the way, when it came to us meeting the parents,
Literally every step of the way, including
every
delivery.
step of the way.
Including
Yes.
delivery. Yes.
Unintended. Yes, no pun intended, but including them every step of the way. That was I guess, one of my biggest takeaways. And the $1 million question I always get is, will you do it again? Will you do it again? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I had such an amazing pregnancy that I don't know if I can compete with that again. So I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. But as of right now, I am just continuously healing day by day, getting back to myself and enjoying, what I have in front of me right now.
Well, Tish, you know that you are the part of the FSC family. Whether you do
Forever.
another journey or not, you're incredible. And, we're ready for you when you're ready.
Okay.
Because that is definitely a personal decision, but you did such an incredible job. And we would always encourage you, if you want to do another journey, we're ready for you.
Gotcha.
And so we appreciate you today, and
Thank
you for sharing your story. I know
Oh my
it
gosh.
can be such a vulnerable thing. So thank you for sharing your story for others, just to, who are considering being a surrogate or hopeful intended parents, just that encouragement of, what the outcome can be. And it's just really exciting. And so, of course, to all of our listeners, if you want more information or want to connect with anyone at Family Source, please visit FamilySourceConsultants.com and reach out to us through our website, and we will get back to you very quickly. And we would love to talk to anyone interested. And Niki, of course, thank you for joining me. And Tish, what a star. We're just so appreciative of you. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.
Yep. Thanks, Tish.